Hello and good morning. My name is Serendipitously Sane, and this is Warhammer 40K Intermediate Tabletop Tactics. This is a presentation designed to let people get better at Warhammer. This is supposed to be an hour-long presentation, but I'm not going to make it. This is going to be way longer than that. Against popular requests, this is going to be something to try to make you better at this game, although um, God knows if it's gonna actually gonna work. I'm going to assume that you actually know how to play this game. You actually know the rules. You actually know a bit about your own army. This is sort of a Warhammer 201. It's not a 101. I'm not going to teach you about moving, shooting, charging, fighting, that kind of stuff. I'm going to assume you know how to read a data sheet. This is about more advanced tactics, about how to deploy, about how to move, about how to actually complete your missions. I'm going to assume you know how to do primary and secondary. Yeah, let's get on to it. Um, so what am I going to be talking about? This is going to be faction non-specific. I play Death Guard, I play Tau, I play Emperor's Children, I do have Space Marines, but I'm not going to be talking about those factions. I'm going to be using them as examples because that's what I know, but I'm not going to be talking about them specifically if I can. This is going to be as much as I can advice that is not based on them. This is going to be edition non-specific as much as I can. I am doing this at the end of 10th edition, which you may think is not a very good time to begin giving advice because everything is changing. But at the same time, if I give advice during the start of 11th edition, I'd be too busy playing the game to give you any advice because, fuck you. I don't be playing the game. I don't want to be talking about the game. So this is the perfect time for me to be doing it because I have nothing better to do. I'll be talking about the mentality when you're playing the game, what you want to be thinking about when you're playing the game, how you want to be practicing the game. I'll be talking about list building, but not as much as you think I'll be talking about it. I want to be talking about list building as the way you think about the list and not what you want to be thinking about in terms of the meta. I'll be talking about deployment, where you want to be putting your things, how you want to be thinking of the map instead of just, what's layout one, what's layout two, what's layout three. Because as we move into 11th, the map is going to change radically, and I want to be able to tell you how you want to be thinking about the map rather than what the map looks like as it is right now in 10th. And also how to think about the game in general, about movement, about move blocking, about a broad presence, about trading, and how do you want to practice going forward. So a little bit about myself and the community that we're in. This particular presentation is more made for Warhammer Scottsdale, my local gaming store, although I don't know if this presentation will go public. Probably not. And I'm the one on the left. My name's Jeffrey in the real life. I don't know if you'll meet me. That's my win rate among casual players. That's 65%. That may sound very good, but I suck. Garrett and Kevin, those are other people in the game store that are very good. Sandro is also a very good player. He's not on here because his bookkeeping sucks. We all have above 60% win rate. We're quite good at the game, but we also completely suck because this is our tournament win rate. I'm there on the left. Uh, I've gone 1-2 in every single RTT I've ever gone to. 33% win rate. Terrible. Garrett, he's slightly better than me. 39% in GTs, 50% in RTTs. No, below a coin flip. Terrible. Sandro, he's gone 1-3 in his most recent teams event. You know, basically got his ass kicked. Kevin went slightly better, 2-2. Although in the previous GTs and RTTs, it's gone 1-2, 1-3, 2-2, everything like that. Even though we look quite strong at the store, we're quite dominant against most players. We're solidly mid-table. Every time we go to a proper GT or RTT, we get our asses kicked. So if you're watching this as somebody who's at the store and thinking, these people are, quite good at the game, no, we're not. We are very easily catch upable, and if you're trying to reach the next rung of the ladder, know that it's not that far up. It doesn't take much in order to get up there. And we want you to join us, and we want to have more people up here to practice with us, and we want you to join us at tournaments so that we can have more people from our store to beat the other people, the jerseys who are crowding out our game. So come join us. So, mentality. The first thing we want to do is get rid of the idea that 40K is a dice game. It is not a dice game, it is a movement game. Dice are involved in this game, but it is not a game of random chance. Do not blame your dice, blame yourself. At the same time, this is a game of dice. There are 4-1 players in this game. There are no 5-0 players. That's what a lot of veteran tournament players say. You can go to a tournament and you can expect to come out with a 4-1 if you're skilled enough, if you know what you're doing and you build your lists carefully and you play carefully, you deploy carefully. But you can never go in and expect to come out with the tournament win. There's always a bit of luck involved. And if you build your list properly and you play properly, you can probably come out with a good run, but it's 40% list, 40% player, and then there's 20% lucked. But at the same time, you don't have to optimize your list perfectly. So you can still play your list and you can still have, some of your favorite units, the units that you think look cool, and you can still have some of your nice units that you think, hey, this is the thing that I think looks really neat, or have some mechanics that I think are very cool and play the way I like. And you can still do very well because it's still 40% player. You can have a list that is 80% good, but 80% because it's only 40% list, 80% of 40% is still 32%, right? So 32% of the list plus 40% player plus 20% luck, you're still at 98, you're still at 92%, and therefore you're still top 8% of the tournament, and therefore you're still going for a one. So there's a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to build the perfect meta list. I don't chase meta, so to speak." Well, that doesn't matter. You don't have to chase meta to be best, right? You can be a 0% list, but you're still going 3-2 because 40% player and 20% luck, you're still 3-2. So don't use that as an excuse. Be better. At the same time, also be okay with losing, right? You will lose games. I go 1-2 every single time, but I still find like that when I go to RTT I'm having fun. In fact, I think that when I go to RTT, the games that I lost are the ones that I have the most fun. Consistently, when I go to RTTs, the 6 games that I lost are the ones that I had fun. The 3 games that I won are the ones that I have less fun because the games that I won are with people who have worse attitude. Um, they don't know how to play the game as well. They're not playing the game as smoothly. They don't really come in. Uh, they're a bit sour grapes. They've lost too many games and they don't really want to be there anymore. That's what ended up happening. And so the games that I had the most fun are the ones that I've lost. And in fact, oh, oops. Here. This is one of the games that I lost. This was the first game in the third RTT that I attended, February 21st. This is a game with Mike. He's a guy who played Eldari. He played MSU Eldari. And as you can see, 88 to 92. I lost this game pretty badly. Um, we played all the way to round 5, and I lost by 4 points. I won by primary. I won by 5 points, but I lost to secondary, and it wasn't even my fault. In the last turn, round 4 and round 5, I got some really bad draws. Um, Basically, I got 3 or 4 dead draws on my secondaries, and I basically lost 28 points to 37. That wasn't my fault. I almost tabled him. He was down to his last 2 units, and I just couldn't pull it back, even though I got 5 extra points on primary. But it was a perfect game. Mike was a very nice guy. He played his heart out. I played my heart out, and I was playing Death Guard, so it was Eldari, and so I was the bad guy. He was the good guy. He was playing the heroic. I was playing the evil villain, and it really helped with that because when he won, it felt like the hero won, right? He was sacrificing his dudes. I was the evil guy, sort of pushing forward and killing all his dudes, but he at the end pulled through, and that felt good. And I was okay with losing that because it felt like a thematic game. It felt like we had fun, and that was okay. And I think that if you wanted to play 40K at a higher level, you have to be able to have that sort of attitude. And going forward, I think that if you want to play well, you want to be playing on official match because it stops you from having blowout games in either direction, right? If you play 40K and you play against a Tau player and you have not enough terrain, you will always lose. If you have too much terrain and you play against a World Eaters player, you will always lose or always win. Um, and so playing in official maps just removes that level of um, variability with losing before you actually start playing the game, and allows you to examine games and examine your playstyle uh, without that level of um, without that extra bit of randomness, and allows you to plan out your deployments and plan out your games better. So you should always be playing on official maps, and it also removes ambiguity when it comes to um, rules. So like you're not arguing about line of sight with your opponent. It creates a more friendly environment with your opponent. Like, oh, I can give you that because you're behind a footprint, you're in front of a footprint. You're never arguing about that. Always playing to a time limit. That's important. Not because you always want to be playing in a tournament situation. Playing in a tournament situation, they always have a time limit because you're limited. You have 3 hours in order to set up your game and finish the game. People have lives to go to, and because there's 3 games in a day, you have to have finish those games within the day. But playing to the time limit also makes you a better player. The reason is you're not looking at your data sheets, right? You have to know your data sheets. You have to know what toughness, save, what strength your characters are at, what units are at. And so when you're not thinking about your data sheets, when you're not thinking, your what toughness, strength, save, AP your units are at, you have time to think about your movement, your deployment, and what your units are doing and what your enemy's units are doing. So you should always be playing it to a time limit, and if possible, you should at least be comfortable playing with a chess clock. You don't have to play every game with a chess clock, and preferably if you're playing a friendly game, you shouldn't be taking out a chess clock. But you should be up to a point where you can play every mission, every map with a chess clock, and you say, okay, that I'm done. I can beat a chess clock, and therefore I'm up to a point in my playing career, and say, okay, I'm up to this level. And also, it's a courtesy to your opponent, right? Your opponent doesn't have all day to play. Maybe they have some place to get to today, or maybe they want to play 2 or 3 games within the time that the store is open. Don't take up all of their hours. Let them do something else. And also, speak to your opponent. It removes ambiguity in your play. Um, Before your opponent's turn starts, ask if this unit has line of sight. Ask what this unit's supposed to do. Ask um, before you attack this unit, do they have defensives or whatever. Know what your opponent can do before you do your thing, and so you're not taking back your moves, or you're not asking them to take back things. This makes your game much smoother, and it also makes it much easier for you to plan things. Okay. Yeah, this is the official map. In case you don't know what it. This is the 10th edition layout one. In case you're not sick of looking at layout one. Obviously, the new 11th edition maps are already out. They look very interesting, although I'm not sure if they're going to have to be changing those because some of them look kind of ambiguous and very exploitable. Um, and they will be evolving them eventually. But I'm going to be using all these 10th edition maps going forward in this presentation, knowing that the 11th edition maps will be different. So I'm not going to be analyzing those 11th edition maps. Um, but I'm going to be assuming that a lot of the things I say here will be applying somewhat to the 11th edition maps, just in different forms. Okay, list building. Um, when it comes to list building, don't think in units. Think in what purpose those units are supposed to be doing. Um, what they're supposed to do, not in, what a jump pack intercessors don't make any sense. Um, Vanguard veterans have 2 different purposes. They can be a brick that you throw at the enemy to make them attack things, or they can be a supporting chaff that are supposed to, take over a primary objective or a secondary objective, or they can be going into the enemy uh, rear lines to be doing behind enemy lines. So the same unit can be doing 2 different things, and you would be using them differently, and therefore they have different unit sizes or different character attachments or different whatevers, and therefore they would have different purposes within your list. and therefore you would use them differently. So when you're building your list, you should be thinking in purposes, not in units. And I'm going to be breaking them down within three main categories, and within those three main categories, we would be breaking them down even further. So chaff, bricks, and support. Those are the three terms I'm going to be using, although those three terms are very ambiguous, and you'll find out they're not really three. Like these terms, they're kind of, yeah. We'll see. Okay, what's chaff? Chaff are sort of small units that sort of run around at the feet of your big units, and they do things that are not actually killing things. They do the scoring. They do the things that the big units don't want to be doing. And I have sort of listed out the main purposes that you might want your chaff to be doing. These are not exhaustive, and these are not singular purposes. So you might have one unit who are able to do two, three, or even all of these purposes at the same time. And I've sort of color coded them so that these might be sort of categories that you want all, like one unit to be doing all of the blue things, or all of the mauve things, or all of the red things, or all of the green things. And over the course of the game, you might move a thing up. So you might want him to be holding primary at the beginning of the game, but maybe the opponent has deep struck his brick. So you no longer care about holding primary because you've sticky your primary, so you can move this thing up, and then now you can use this thing to score secondary, right? So your intercessors may be holding your primary, and then starting from the second turn onwards, you don't care about holding primary anymore, so you can just move them up. Um, and also in 11th edition, maybe these things will change, right? So maybe starting for 11th edition, the secondary objectives will change, so you don't have to be doing area denial for some reason. So, well, actually, I think area denial will be gone, so we don't know anymore. So I'll go through them a little bit. So number one, hold primary. This will probably stay around. So intercessors, this is the primary example. What do you want from your intercessors? Well, you probably want them to be standing around and standing on your objective, right? We have here on this map over here, again, this is layout one. Here are some 32 millimeter bases. Five of them, these are basically their intercessors. I've drawn a little line here. This is a 9-inch line from the edge of the board. This is how you would normally position them, so that nobody can deep strike behind your behind your lines and get on top of your home objective. Normally, if you want something to be on your home objective, sticky is a very nice thing because later in your game, you can then move these home objective heroes off of your primary objective, and then maybe you can expand your deep strike denial, so you can move them slightly closer to the edge of the board so they can deny a 6-inch deep strike, or they can move forward so they can go and shoot somebody, or they can do a secondary objective like recover assets or sabotage, or they can go sacrifice themselves or something like that. But they don't have to be. You know, there's some armies that don't have sticky. For example, Necrons do not have sticky except for Trazyn the Infinite, and Trazyn is not a very good unit, so you don't necessarily need sticky. Sometimes you don't want to have sticky. For example, some armies will run infiltrators. As in not the infiltrator, the keyword, the Space Marine infiltrators unit. And the reason is because if, for example, if 6-inch deep strike becomes a meta unit, then you might want to have the 12-inch deep strike denial bubble in order to prevent that from hitting your home objective. So there may be different things that you want on your primary, but sticky is a very universal thing. The other thing you want your chaff to do is screening deep strike on the other side of the board. So you don't really want people landing here, because if they land here, they can pretty safely land here and then have a safe 9-inch charge onto your secondary objective. 9-inch charge onto the secondary is not very safe. You probably don't want that. But if they land here, you can't really interact with them, right? So they may think, okay, I'll now land here and I'll risk a 9-inch charge. Maybe a 9-inch charge won't actually do it, but I can do it on turn 3, and so you can't interact me with on turn 2, and then on turn 3 I can attack you, or I can rapid ingress, and so it's safe for me anyway. So I want to screen here, and I'll be able to so that you can't do that to me, and then I'll be safe here. And right now I have a 60 millimeter base here. This is actually not a piece of chaff. This will be a demon prince. And the reason I'm using a demon prince here is this will be actually an Emperor's Children army that I'll be doing this with. And the winged demon prince in the Emperor's Children army is my warlord. And in the Emperor's Children Coterie of the Conceited, my warlord cannot die. And if my warlord dies, I lose my detachment buff, and therefore I want to keep him safe for as long as possible, and therefore that's why I would put him here. And again, I have a 9-inch screening radius here so that he can't deep strike here, and I have a 9-inch screening here so he can't deep strike in the back. This is a very common deep striking zone, so I'm keeping 9 inches from the edge of my 32 millimeter intercessor, or this will be a tormentor because I'm playing Emperor's Children, and I'm keeping 9 inches from here. If I'm playing Space Marines, this might be, let's say, scouts or infiltrators or uh, combi lieutenant, anything of that sort. Um, Another thing I can use with this particular screening unit is I can score secondaries. So I can score secondary in the rear of the enemy unit. So um, one thing that this unit can do is I can make this unit the uppy downy unit. What uppy downy means is there is a rule that allows a unit to be removed from the board and placed in reserve if it is not in combat with another unit at the end of the opponent's turn. This is commonly known within the community as uppy downy because you go up into reserve and then you come down in deep strike. In the Space Marine, again, I'm using Space Marines. In the Space Marines, that is called the Space Marine Scout Squad. In Tau, it's Vespids. In Drukhari, it's Mandrakes. In Grey Knights, it's literally every unit because it's the army rule. In Eldar and Eldari, it's the bikes if you play the Wind Rider hosts, etc., etc., etc. So you might want to place that unit here because at the end of the opponent's turn, you can just say, I'm uppying him. And then if you don't draw behind enemy lines, you just put them here. You just say, I'm upping them at the end of your turn. I'm always upping them. At the beginning of my turn, if I don't draw behind enemy lines, I'm putting back right where they are. In fact, you don't even have to remove the models. You just say, if I don't say anything, I'm putting that back where they are. And usually the opponents say, yeah, whatever. do that thing. Vespids are a perfect example. I always do, like, that's a very good way of using Vespids. Is just say, if I don't say anything, Vespids are going up and down, up and down, up and down right here. Okay, so for that unit, a lot of times you want a large squad that has large bases. Lone op sometimes help as well. You can put the lone op like here, so that you don't actually have to worry about that guy being shot. You can just put him here, and then even if they move over here, they can't shoot this lone op. And then you can screen like over here this way. So you can put one base here, one base here, one base here, and one base here, and then this is a very nice screen, and you don't have to worry about it. Okay, next, holding the expansion primary. Oh, the other thing, everybody has deep strike denial, so you don't have to worry about 12-inch deep strike denial. As long as you have a 32 millimeter base or any size millimeter base, you always have deep strike denial. So sometimes it's easy to forget that. Uh, Holding primary, the expansion. So this is sometimes done by chaff, but sometimes you want to do this with a more serious unit because chaff can get killed. So right here, this was illustrating basically a combi lieutenant from the Space Marine. It's called a lieutenant with combi weapon. So it's a 40 millimeter base. It's a lone op unit. Lone op means you can't be shot by outside of 12. And the reason why you put him here is that he has a 6-inch reactive move. So if you move within 9 inches of him, he can reactive move. And the reason why you put him here is that the only way to shoot him is to move close to him to over here. And if you move too close to him, he can 6-inch reactive move behind cover over here, and you can't shoot him. So you'll lose holding the secondary, but then he'll move behind cover, so he'll still be alive, and the next turn he can move out. You'll just lose 5 points, but he'll still be alive. And most opponents will say that's not quite worth it. I expose this unit over here, and then from this sideline you can be shot by a tank. Do I really want to do that? That's only worth 5 VP. I lose maybe a 200-point unit. That's not quite useful. And then this guy is only 85 points now. He used to be 70. Jesus. And so, yeah, most people won't make that trade. So the Convoy Lieutenant is extremely useful here. But occasionally you don't want to do that. For example, in Tau, again, I'm using Tau as example, Ghost Kill. Ghost Kill is often used as that role because you'll put a Ghost Kill here. He's alone up, so that you can only be shoot again from this position or from this position. So you have to put out a giant tank to shoot him, and he's very tough. He's a T8 2+ save stealth. You can put him here to get cover, and then you can have. He has 2 blanks, so if you shoot him with a las cannon or something big, he just doesn't die. And so that's the holding primary. So sometimes you use chaff, sometimes you use a bigger unit. It sort of depends. So yeah, you want a sticky. Sticky is sometimes good, so that when you have to move out off this point, it's still sticky. So you have to actually move something on. And if you move something on, that's definitely dangerous, right? You definitely get countercharged, get 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 your butt kicked. Scout would be useful. So for example, if I have Coup Carnivore sticking here, I can Scout 7 onto the point, sticky the point, and then so now if I get killed, if I shot off, it doesn't matter. You just shot off some. Okay. Screening, infiltrate, and sorting secondaries. So this is a very complicated graph to illustrate this is the most important role for chaff. So over here, it illustrates what you want your chaff to do to prevent shenanigans from your opponent at the very beginning of the game. What this is doing is that this is preventing your opponent from a taking over this very important part of the map that allows you to safely interact with the center of the map. So this center middle objective, this part of the map is very safe, right? Over here, this part of the map is very safe, and you want this part of the map to belong to you. And if the opponent can take over this map, this part of the map, before you can take over it, then you are shit out of luck, right? If he puts, let's say Tau Monka puts a Devilfish here, and then he puts out some Breachers here, and he shoots into your Plague Marines, Plague Marine Rhino, and then your Plague Marines fall out, and they have to slowly walk up here, and they have to kill the Breachers, and then kill the Devilfish, and it's turn 3 by the time you reach here. You've already lost, because they have put a bunch of random bullcrap here, and you cannot interact with this objective for 3 turns, and they've scored 15 points for 3 turns. And so you're dead, right? You cannot win this game. And so you have to prevent them from reaching this point at turn 1. And the way you do that is you put some random bullshit 65-point poxwalkers here in order to prevent them from reaching this point too early in the game. And that is what infiltrators do. And this is what we call screening the rushdown. Right. And in order to do that, what we want to do is we want to have infiltrators whose ability it is to occupy this area here so that the enemy cannot put their stuff within this area. And the other role that we want is to prevent them from reaching this area in melee. So the other thing that they can do is they can have, for example, Khorne Berserkers. So Khorne Berserkers, they can stage within, let's say, over here, in a Rhino, disembark 3. They can move 8, so they're over here. They can advance, let's say 3.5, and then they can charge 7, so they're over here, or they can be over here. And then so they can be quite close to your deployment zone within turn 1. And this is actually, this is 2012. This is the tipping point engagement. So these are actually quite far away. The other one is Dawn of War. No, not Dawn of War. The other one, the 18-18 one, where you're even closer to each other, they can reach you turn one and they can rush you down. So that's called a rush down. Um, and basically, you want to deploy in a line like this in order to prevent you from actually running into your lines and just killing you, right? So this is not necessarily the right position for you to place in every single game. For example, if you're playing against Space Marines aren't actually going to rush you down, right? Space Marine Blade Guard, they can't actually reach you. So if you place your Poxwalkers like this, they're not gonna actually run you down. They're just gonna place a repulsor executioner over here and then shoot you like this, and then kill all your Poxwalkers, and you will gain nothing from this experience. So these are two alternate positions that you won't ever actually place in the same game. Um, so again, maybe against Corn Berserkers, you'll place these guys here, and then they'll be forced to maybe put their Force Fiend here, and then shoot you like this. And again, Space Marines, you'll place them here, safely within cover, so that they will have to, stage their guys here, and then they'll have to stage their guys in their own staging area, and then slowly move here, and then maybe you'll move your Poxwalkers out of the way so that you can put your Rhino in here, and then you can stage um, opposite them, and then you can do your future turn two, turn three in the middle, and then play the game fairly from there on. So, this same unit, the Poxwalkers, or it doesn't have to be Poxwalkers, Chaos Spawn, in different armies, they can be different things. I don't actually know what they'll be um, in different armies. Space Marine Scouts, Jump Pack Intercessors, um, Incursors, yeah, any fast moving infiltrate scout unit uh, can be in this area. So they also want to be here because they can score early secondaries that want to be in the center. So currently in 10th edition, there is stuff like area denial, or there are stuff like established locus, or attempting target that wants you to be in the center. Attempting target's a bit of a dead draw because attempting target sometimes you can score on the enemy expansion target, which means that you have to. That's usually a sacrifice that you don't want to make because it sacrifices one of your chaff, and usually you don't want to be there. But um, if it's established locus or area denial, you don't ever want to be caught in a position where you can't score those on turn one because it's free 2 or 3 points, and why give up those points, right? It's you waste your 65 point unit and you get 3 points. You always want that. So that's why you always want this unit to be there. Okay. Next roll. Early trading. So your opponent draws area denial in the first turn. They had to put out their 65 point Poxwalker or their early Pathfinders or their Space Marine Scouts or their um, Chaos Spawn or their the Chaos Bikers or their Orc Commandos, whatever it is they had to put out. You then draw no prisoners or overwhelming force. Fantastic. It's free 4 points. You now have to trade forward to get that. But you don't want to be spending your 150 point unit or your 400 point brick in order to get those points because that's not really worth it. So you want to be spending your own chaff in order to get those points. But if you send forward your own Space Marine Scout or Poxwalkers, they won't actually kill um, their Space Marine Scouts because Space Marine Scouts do no damage, right? They have knives, and their knives don't actually reliably kill another Space Marine Scout. So you have these early trading units whose job it is to actually do damage, and they move fairly fast. For example, these Jump Pack Intercessors, their threat range is 12 plus 7, so 19 inches. So if they're forced to move onto an expansion objective, or they're still deployed behind in the staging area behind cover, these guys can reach them. So you send them forward, and they're only 90 points. So if they die, they die. Um, and these are the the role of chaff, right? They have to go forward and they die. But because these are Space Marine jump pack intercessors, they have what is it? 4 times 6, so the 16 attacks and they're AP -1. So against scouts, you can pretty reliably, within 80% chance, kill a bunch of scouts, and you'll be fine. The other example out here is the Corn version, the Woad Eaters version of Chaos Spawn. These guys have D6 plus 4 attacks. Because you'll probably be running them in the Woad Eaters detachment, which is the Corn Berserkers attachment. I don't remember what it's called, but you get +1 attack, so it's actually D6 plus 5 attacks. So it averages to 17 attacks. 5-1-2 becomes 7-1-2. You'll absolutely mash whatever you go into. They have advance and charge. They scout 8, move 10. That 28-inch range. They'll be on the enemy deployment zone whenever they want. Right. So these are early trading units, and you definitely want at least 1 or 2 of these. If and again, um, you're using these as a defensive thing. So if you draw overwhelming force with no prisoners, you're using these in order to get your points. But you can use these as an aggressive move as well, right? The enemy is forced to screen your rushdown if you have one of these, and sometimes you have a big rushdown unit. Like for example, in Tau you have the Devilfish with 10 breachers. That's an expensive rushdown unit. But you can have one of these cheap units. It's only 90 points. And the enemy is forced to have infiltrate or rush or screening units in order to screen out a 90-point unit. So they're forced to dedicate, 90, 180 point of their army in order to screen out your 90 points. So you're up. You're up 90 points by spending 90 points. And the other thing that you might have in your army is something to enable your army or detachment rule. So if you're playing Necrons, you'll recognize one of these. It's a Canoptech Reanimator. It turns your reanimation from 1d3 to 2d3. He's only 75 points, but he can also do actions. So he can do Establish Locus in the middle of the board, but he enables your army rule. So you definitely want one of these. If you're playing Tau, again, you have one of these stealth squads. He's in the back. He's screening your deep strike on the left edge of the board, but he's also giving you reroll ones to hit and wound. So he can double dip your chaff duties on this side, doing the purple roll as well as the brown roll. Okay, general principles about chaff. You want them to be low cost and high efficiency. You don't want to be taking 10 mans of intercessors. You want them to be minimum size squads, minimum size MSU, minimum size units. Usually they're under 100 points, but you can have slightly higher. For example, you have the 3-man squad of Inceptors, they're 120 points, and the reason is because they offer you some sort of extra value. You usually want them to be multi-duty. You don't want them to be only doing one thing. A good example that I haven't actually listed is transports, right? Dedicated transports have 75 points, 80 points. They help you get your units up the board to do something useful. But once your units are up the board, they can move block, they can do secondary actions, they move quite fast, they can hold your secondary, they can run around their OC2, all sorts of great stuff. The meta has and will shift. So in the past, you usually need to take about 6 or 7 chaff units. It has dropped down to 4. Right now it's 4 to 6, and this will change over time. You want to be paying attention. I think right now in 11, people are saying it's more deadly, so you might be dropping down to 4. In your collection, you probably want to have between 7 units, probably 7 or 8 units, so that you can, sometimes the secondaries will say, hey, you want to have stuff that you can be uppy downy and stuff that can deep strike and some things that have a sticky. You want to have a good variety within your collection so you can swap them in and out. The other thing is you want to force the enemy to expend and use their chaff. So you always want to have something in deep strike, even if your game plan does not require you to have deep strike. So maybe your big brick are all walking up the field, but then use some of your chaff in deep strike so that the enemy has to screen out your deep strike. You always want to have something in infiltrate so the enemy has to screen out your infiltrate. Even if your infiltrate is not, like, you're not trying to infiltrate to take over your enemy's staging area, have some infiltrate of your own, just so that you have to, so the enemy has to have infiltrate to screen you out, right? Infiltrate to take over area denial within 6 inches of the center, so the enemy has to kill you in order to get their enemy area denial, right? So make sure you are forcing the enemy to expend their resources. If the enemy has no chaff, they can't score points, and therefore they will lose. Um, Also, chaff doesn't have to be intercessors. This is a perfectly valid list that will actually be able to function. Can you spot the chaff? Obviously, the Callous Assassin is chaff. The Callous Assassin has an Vectora, so you don't want to actually be wasting this chaff, but and it's also quite expensive. It's 100 points. It's right at the limit of what we would consider chaff. But where is the chaff here? It's not Trajan. He's a beat stick. The Blade Champion is attached to a squad. He's not a chaff. The Dawn Eagle Jetpack is attached to these Virtus Praetors. The Terminator Captain is attached to this squad of Custodians. And these Wardens are attached to these guys. So actually, the chaff is here. Dolores Custodians. Because we are playing Lions of the Emperor, and there is a stratagem called Unleash the Lions. So you take these Alaris Custodians, turn 1, you put them on your home objective, they're holding home. Turn 2, or at the end of at your end of a command phase, you use the stratagem called Unleash the Lions. It splits the Alaris Custodian squad into 5 separate Terminators. Each of these Terminators are OC2. They have 4 wounds each. They're 2 up, 4 up, tough to 7, so they're quite tough. And they have a once per game uppy downy. So, and they have deep strike. So you can just, they're 55 points each, and you can uppy them into the sky. You leave one on your own home point, and then you can just uppy them, and then they'll go back down, and they'll deep strike onto each of your. They can deep strike onto the expansion objective. They can deep strike into the center of the board, and then you can deep strike them onto the enemy's rear line, and they can do actions in your enemy rear line. They're very hard to kill. They can rapid ingress. They can do all sorts of silly things. It's not the most objectively efficient thing to do, but if you don't want to run Sisters of Silence because they're kind of ugly and they're kind of easy to kill, they're easier to kill than one of these Alaris Custodians, and they're basically the same price. Sisters of Silence are what 40 points each, and these guys 55. And Sisters can't deep strike, so they're less mobile and they're easier to kill. So this is something that you can run. And this list is actually more flexible because you can decide whether you want 5 chaff or 6 chaff. And if you run out of 5 chaff, these guys are going to unleash the lion, so you actually have 11. It's pretty funny. So yeah, and if you think, oh, I'm not running sisters, that's not thematic. Well, you can run this list. And the last thing is bricks win battles, chaff wins games. You can have a list with all chaff. This is called an MSU list, and you can win a game. But if you have a list with all bricks, you will lose. So that's why I put chaff first and bricks later, because chaff is what actually matters. You want chaff. You cannot have a game where you all run bricks, but you can have a game where you all run chaff. So okay, speaking of bricks, what are bricks? Bricks are the big flashy game winners in your army. These are the Timmies of your list. They can be a large unit of infantry with a leader, usually with a leader. They don't necessarily have to have one. Some armies can run with no leaders, but usually right now they require a leader. And or they can be like a big giant robot, or they can be like a big giant monster, right? Catan. Catan is a big giant brick. Usually they're between 250 and 400 points. You can go higher. That's what we call a castle formation. But those can get risky. And what a castle formation is that they are multiple individual units that can function individually, but they function best when all those individual pieces work together as a single piece. And you can go all the way up to like 400 or, excuse me, 600 or 800 points. Uh, but it gets extremely risky because the enemy might have a way to take out a single piece or multiple pieces, and then now you're really screwed because then they've broken your castle, and then now your list doesn't have much to work with. Um, Basically every one of these codexes right now has like a combo that you can work with, and once you have that combo down, um, they usually do massive amounts of damage. So you want to figure out what that combo is within your codex, and you probably want to run one of those. You don't have to. There is a lot of lists out there that can run without these action minimum without these bricks, and but the worst part is if you try to run bricks that don't actually work. So a very good um, example that I see very often is Hellblasters. So I would see a lot of Space Marine players run Hellblasters with a Lieutenant and Apothecary, and that is a bad brick because it doesn't actually do that much damage. Uh, and the Apothecary is actually useless because that brick doesn't have enough staying power to actually let the Apothecary do any work. But it's like a fake brick that people think is actually very strong, but it's not. And then people will run that, and then yeah, they get their asses kicked. Or they run that, but they actually need a repulsor to get them anywhere safely, and then they don't actually bring the repulsor. So figure out what the actual bricks are within your army. The other one is Terminators, right? Terminators look like a brick. They're not actually a brick. They don't do enough damage. They don't have enough staying power. The real bricks within the Space Marine Codex are like Victrix Guard with Marnius Calgar, or Blade Guard with um, the what do you call it? The Judiciar. Those are bricks. Uh, but a lot of new players don't actually take them. Some bricks that we're familiar with, Plague Marines with the Malignant Plaguecaster and Biologist Putrefier, Grey Knights, Crow Brick, right? Castellan Crow with the Purifiers, Space Wolves, anything with Ragnar Blackmane with the Blood Calls, uh, Knights, any of the big Knights, the Spoiler Knight, for example. Um, the World Eaters, Karn the Betrayer with 10 of the whatchamacallits, 10 Berserkers in a Reiner. These are all bricks. Bricks, you don't want to take too many. 0 to 3 is the general rule. You can have up to 4 if you're taking smaller ones, or if you're really going ham, right? If you're taking 4, you're dedicated to the cause. You really want to be taking uh, that you're risking your list on it. You're dedicating yourself to a go turn, and if it fails, you fail, and that's it. You will be losing from then on. And basically, if you're going with a 4 brick list, um, it will only work up to a point. A good player will be able to take you apart. So, how do you efficiently use bricks? First thing first, get there safely. Um, this is taken from the Horus Heresy um, game, but if you remember the Horus Heresy, the Saturnine trailer, the Salamanders, they rode their Land Raiders and they teleported their Terminators, their Saturnine Terminators. So use transports, use Deep Strike. Or if your unit is fast enough, keep them far back and jump forward using advance and charge and fast movement. Don't move them up so that they can be rushed down by an even faster unit, right? If you move your flimsy unit to a staging area and then the enemy can just rush you down with their fast unit, then they'll just die. Unless they have fight first, and fight first doesn't work in 11th edition. So use your transports, and if your transports get attacked and they die, well, at least it's a ablative wound that allows your normal unit to work normally. And then use Deep Strike. But use Deep Strike sensibly. Do not charge out of Deep Strike. 9-inch charges are not real. Use Rapid Ingress. And also, use your bricks at the right time. Aim for a round 2 or round 3 attack at the latest. And if you're using Deep Strike, you have to. because Deep Strike only works in round 2 or round 3 unless you're uppy downy. And the reason why you want to aim them at round 2 or round 3 is because by round 4, uh, the scoring doesn't work anymore. Um, you would have lost too many victory points to catch up. So you always want to be using your bricks early. Not too early because then you probably won't be able to hit something very important because the enemy probably have screened you out unless they haven't, in which case you already won because the enemy doesn't know what they're doing. Um, and also, you probably want to be using them in concert. So don't just send a brick forward, hit them with multiple bricks at the same time, hit them at multiple points, so it's harder for them to react, right? If you hit them with one thing, they can turn their army around, eliminate that brick, and then probably hit you with multiple bricks of their own. But if you, for example, if you have 3 bricks, have one in reserve, so that when they eliminate your 2 bricks, now your 3rd brick can come out and hit whatever comes out. And the final thing is bricks die. Get over it. Um, if your bricks do die, uh, have a plan for how you're going to continue the game, right? So I send my Plague Marines out, my Plague Marines die, I still have my Blightlord Terminators to keep on fighting over the game. If I send my Death Shroud to attack their backline, they've killed my Death Shroud, but I can still fight on because they have actually dedicated resources to killing these Death Shroud, and their bricks that are dealing the Death Shroud are not dealing the rest of my army. So I'm still winning. Do not count on using your bricks twice. Okay, brick. There's a special kind of bricks called a tar pit, and this is a very good example. This is a Canoptek Wraith in the Necrons. They're designed to get hit rather than hitting other people, and they are there to win by OC, not damage. And they do this by having high toughness, high save, usually a feel no pain, and probably a heal. And this is a very good example because Canoptek Wraiths have all 4 of them. They have high toughness, they have toughness 6. They have a high save. They're 3 up save, 4 up, 4 up invulnerable, 5 up feel no pain, and they're Necrons, so they heal D3 every turn, 2d3 if they're next to a reanimator. And they usually operate on a scam basis. And what do I mean by scam? A scam is when you can roll a dice, and if you roll high, the opponent's plans are ruined. So a 4 up invulnerable has a half a chance of ruining the opponent's plan. And so the opponent has to think, okay, I have a 50-50% chance of killing you. Is that good enough? No. So I have to expose enough stuff to make this like an 80% chance. Well, if I expose an 80% chance worth of stuff, that might be too much, right? That might be too much of my army, so that on the clapback, I might lose too much of my stuff, and I'll just lose because, I don't have enough stuff on the table. And so that's what is called a scam. And sometimes, 80% is not good enough, right? I'll just lose because, it's the 20% game. Or that this is the 4-1 game. This is the one game that I lose. So that's what a scam is. And the problem with tar pits is that they'll still die. Sometimes you'll put a wraith out and then the enemy just brings out their death squad and then they'll still die. And you are counting on the fact that they have dedicated so much resources to your tar pit that the rest of your army is safe, and therefore you will still win the game because you are able to uh, use the rest of your army that are still intact to kill their army. So, okay, what's a support? Support is everything else. They're usually between 150 and 350 points. Usually under 350. 300 is a pretty much the limit. And I count anything that is a support as anything that's not the other two, which is a bit of a cop out. And there's many varying forms of it. So let's take a look at some of them. This is a trading piece. So what is a trading piece? Trading piece is a high damage piece, and what they do is they go rah, 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 and they kill the enemy. And that's a technical term. They go into the enemy, they die, they do high damage relative to their toughness. And the trick about this is you have to get them safely to the target, and then they die. They get to the target, They kill, and then they die. They have to have a long threat range, so usually you get them in there in a transport, although sometimes they can be fast on their own, so they have a jump pack. Um, and they have to be relatively cheap. So, for example, this is a very good example. This is a Rhino, a Chaos Lord, and 5 Legionnaires times 2. Legionnaires are 90 points. The Chaos Lord, I think, is 90 points or 80 points, something like that. And then the Rhino's 75 points. So this package altogether is 350, 400 points. But if you split them up together, each of these is only 200. But they can do as much damage as a brick, a little less. So they can kill a brick, but they have the toughness of like a chaff, a little more than a chaff. So they can trade into a brick, but they die to like a something a little heavier than to jump pack intercessors. And so if an enemy puts out a brick too early, or they misposition a brick, or they misposition a fire support piece, you send one of these guys out and they kill and they do more damage than their points are worth. However, they're very weak to fire overwatch or a reactive move. If you position them wrong, you're screwed. So they require higher skill to position, and you need to get them there safely. But if you do it right, uh, you win. So uh, fire support. So these are long range damage pieces, and they gain fire superiority over a firing lane. And usually on a map, GW will always leave these long lanes in order for your big tanks to gain fire superiority. And if you gain fire superiority, what happens is that you'll be able to shoot freely at the enemy's big monsters and infantry, and you'll have fun and they won't. They're relatively hard to kill for what they are, so they'll have higher toughness than than they're worth. So for example, the Tyrannofex here is a T12 2-up save monster with a blank. So um, they don't die to just like shoot some bolters and make them die. And you can usually make them tougher, right? You can like give them -1 damage, or you can um, put them behind cover, or sometimes you can give them loan up. The Forge Fiend in Chaos Space Marines in what was that? Packbound Zealots is a fair one. They can give them 18-inch loan up, and they're usually more than 18 inch away. That's how you keep them safe. There's usually actually two kinds. So these two guys are anti-tank. So the Hammerhead has a railgun. It's a strength 20 railgun, and this guy's strength 18 with 2 shots. They're dedicated tank hunters. So if you shoot these guys in the Terminators, they'll pick up 1 or 2 and do absolutely nothing. Actually, this guy will pick up between 0 and 1. This guy will pick up average of 1, maybe 2. This guy is more of an infantry hunter. This is a heavy bloat drone from Death Guard. D6 plus 2 plus blast. They'll absolutely shred Terminators or infantry. And this guy is a Doomsday Arc from Necrons. They will pick up D6 plus 1 plus blast, 4 damage. They'll pick up anything, tanks or infantry. So the best way to counter these guys is to have your own fire support damage. So you probably in a balanced list you always want to have one of these, although you don't have to. If your army moves fast enough, you can tie them up with your own infantry, or if you have a trading unit. So if you have one of these, some of them are good enough to just like smash them. Oh, I forgot to mention. Usually these trading pieces, for example, this Chaos Lord, he has an ability that allows him to have a once per game, and one of these once per games are usually what makes them work because they have low toughness, so they'll just die. So why don't you use your once per game, and then as soon as they activate, um, they do a lot of damage and they die. So they're once per game anyways. And then the infantry, they do some damage, but their main role is to give them reroll wounds. So these guys, their role is if you're on an objective, they give reroll wounds. That's what they're for. So you can send fast moving infantry, tie them up, and these guys usually do absolutely nothing in close combat. You can make them fall back and shoot. Actually, none of these guys can fall back and shoot except this guy and one detachment. So, you know, if you can send something over to tie them up, they usually do very little. These two have blast weapons, so they don't do anything. They're -1 to hit if you tie them up, and because you're move blocking them, they probably can't draw a line of sight. These two will just have -1 to hit, although they have rerolls. And heavy. Actually, you can't get heavy in 11th edition anymore, so these guys are just even weaker if you tie them up in close combat. So yeah, that's how you counter them. And also they can be casino cannons. That's one of their weaknesses. These guys have one shot. These guys have D6 plus X number of shots. So you can roll a one and then you're screwed. The other kind of support is heavy transport and buff pieces. So these are like transports or part of your bricks. And so the danger with them is that they aren't bricks, but they can look a little bit like bricks and they make your bricks even more brick shaped. So there's always a bit of a risk when you run these things because if you have too many of them, so like if you have a 300 point unit with a 270 point um, heavy transport, they can be basically a 600 point unit. And so if you get rushed down in your Land Raider, it could be a 600 point unit that is just very far behind your lines that can't reach the center objective where it wants to be. So, but a good a good heavy transport is capable of independent action. So when the aggressors step out of this Land Raider, this is a Salamander Land Raider, so it's usually aggressors inside of them. Um, it's still capable of independent action. So usually, for example, this guy is a Land Raider Redeemer. The aggressors step out of it. They have flamers. They have power fists to punch people, but also the Land Raider Redeemer has two giant flamers that are 2 damage each, so he can fire Overwatch, he can hit people, and he can do things of his own. So they are capable of independent action. This guy is Lumer Seraz. He adds -1 AP and +1 AP to your warriors, and he's also capable of doing damage to himself, and he's quite tough on his own. So this is how you want your support and buff pieces to look. The last kind of category of support is tech pieces. This is kind of hard to define because nobody's actually defined them properly. I've tried to look up a definition and nobody's actually said a good definition, so I'm going to define it myself. Um, I'm going to define them as unconventional or difficult to kill or deal with pieces. And this guy, I think, in most people's minds, won't be defined as a tech piece because he's too expensive. But I'm going to say he's a tech piece. And what a tech piece is something which is you can't just shoot at or charge at normally because if you just do it normally, you won't kill him properly or you will kill him inefficiently. So if you do that, you'll lose. And the reason you have these in your army is because it throws a wrench in the enemy's plans. So if the enemy just attacks this ghost keel with chaff, he has a T8, he has toughness 8 and has a 2-up save. So if you throw jump pack intercessors in them, they wound on 6s and he saves on a 3-up, so it won't kill him. He has 12 wounds, won't kill him. He has a 12-inch loan up, so you can't just shoot your gladiator or your repulsor executioner in them because it just won't hit. He has 2 blanks, so if you drive your repulsor executioner up to him, it still won't kill him because you just blank both of your lasers. It's 160 points, so if you throw your Chaos Lord into him, your Chaos Lord's more expensive than this Ghost Kill, so you won't trade up. Even though if you kill him, you won't trade up. And if you throw like a 400 point like a brick at him, if you throw like your Plague Marines at him, yeah, you'll kill him, but your Plague Marine brick will just get shot by every battle suit and Riptide that I have in my army, and you won't trade up. Your 400 points will die. I don't have to expose any of my things because I'll keep my Ghost Kill back, and you'll lose anyways because you just lost your Plague Marines for nothing. And so I threw a wrench in your plans. You have to think of something to deal with my Ghost Kill. What are you going to do about it? You have to think. And you'll be surprised how many um, good tournament players that are mid-table or higher who are really bad at thinking because they have planned out their army pretty well. They've thought about how to deploy their army. They've thought about their each how each of their things do, but they're playing on autopilot, right? Their plague marines go here, their rhino is going to move up to their staging area, and then they're going to move their rhino their plague marines out on turn two, and then they're going to activate this stratagem, and they're going to pipe up crits and reroll wounds, and they're going to do all these things, and they just turn off their brain, especially on round two of a round the third game of a tournament, and that's all they're thinking about. And then they face a ghost, they go, what do I do with this thing? And then they just turn on, they just like blue screen, and they don't know what to do. And they waste their clock, they waste their time, and then yeah. So these are really good pieces to have one or two in your army to just annoy the hell out of your opponent. This is a more classic example of what a tech piece looks like. This was what like everybody will say is a tech piece, and this is a Captain and Gravis armor in either Blades of Ultramar or Gladius Task Force. So this is a traditional Space Marine tech piece. And what this is a Captain and Gravis armor with Artificer armor. And the way this works is that Artificer armor gives you a 2+ save and 5+ heal no pain. And the Captain and Gravis armor starts with a ability called Refuse to Yield that has the damage characteristic of the attack. And he already has toughness 6 and a 4+ invuln, so it's a 2+, 4+ with a 5+ feel no pain and half the damage. Now, because of the 2+ save, damage 1 basically does nothing to him. Because 2+ save, damage 1, usually if it's a damage 1, the best you get is AP 1. So basically you save on a 2+, if you have cover. So basically anything that comes in is going to be damage 2 or higher, and you get a 4+, invuln and a 5+ save. And if you work on the math on that, 5+ Funeral Pain blocks a third of the incoming damage, and the half damage blocks half more of the damage. 6 wounds becomes 18 effective wounds with a T6 and a 2+, 4+. A Demon Prince is only toughness 9 or 10, and it only has 9 wounds or 10 wounds, depending on. It only has 10 wounds if it's a flying Demon Prince. So he has 18 effective wounds versus 10 wounds on a Demon Prince. He's harder to kill than a Demon Prince. And he has a smaller base. He's only 40mm base. And he's infantry, so he moves through walls. So he can't be sharp in combat because he's not a monster. And he's only 100 points. He's not 200 points or 180 points. So he's extremely hard to deal with. Right, you put him on a center objective, he can't be killed. He can be in cover. You put him on a side objective, he can't be killed. If he's in Gladius, he has a reactive move that is 6 inches, I think, or is it D6? It's D6 and it's 6 inches if it's in one of their in their Gladius like once per game things. And he does quite a lot of damage. He'll kill Chaff whenever he wants because he has a Power Fist and a Relic Blade. And he has a Boltstorm Gauntlet that has 3 attacks that is pistol. And he reduces stratagem by one CP, so his reactive move is free. Or he can advance and charge because for free, or he can fight on death. He's just annoying as fuck. And so this is a tech piece. It's just whatever your opponent do, there is no good answer. He breaks the equation of good, easy trading. That's a tech piece. So when you're building a list, you want to have these kind of things, right? Annoying things that ruin your opponent's day. You do not want to be playing Honest Warhammer. Honest Warhammer will take you up to a point in your Warhammer career. You will be able to beat people who are in the lower tables or mid tables, but once you get higher within the tables, you will reach a point where they will just be able to beat you because they know how you're playing, and they just outplay you in the on the rankings, and then they'll know your every move. So you want to be playing better than that. So look for things that make their life miserable, and these things can be anywhere. They can be in the chaff, they can be in the bricks, they can be in the sport, and they change the way you play that unit. And this is very much up to personal preference. Some things that you like, some things that they like. some things that they hate, and play the way that you want. And you want these to be multi-duty, but make note that some units are meant to die, and so you know if your brick is meant to die, don't put the things that you're too attached to in there, right? You know, if it's a if that thing is supposed to generate CP, make sure it's a unit that you put a bit further back. Don't put it into something that's further forward, and then it dies, and then you don't have your CP generation anymore, right? For example, Dark Angels, what's his face? The chapter master, Azrael. Azrael is an absolute beatstick. He gives sustained hits to your stern guard. You don't want that guy coming out before turn 3. So even though he's a beatstick, he usually can't be in a transport, and he usually can't be in a unit that you put out before turn 3. So it's a lot of restrictions. So, some kind of examples. Turn 1 Alpha Strike. Here's a Devilfish with Breachers in it. Annoying as fuck. If you don't screen properly in Monka, this guy will Scout 6, advance, move 12, drop Breachers out for another 3 inches, reroll wounds on an objective, 30 shots, hit on 2s, strength 6, AP 1, blast the shit out of you. Annoying as fuck. 6-inch Deep Strike. These guys, they will they do so much damage. They're damage 2, damage 3, AP 3, strength 8, lance sustained, lethal. And every Death Guard army can have 2 or 3 of these, and they're only 280 points. Insane. Lord of Deceit, Vectora, it increases your CP count, so it makes it really hard for you to do anything in the center of the field because basically any brick right now requires you to spend CP. So that's Euroventris right now. Euroventris, his model is out of print. Very annoying. CP management. This is Eldrad Orthran. Um, in 11th edition, indirect fire is worse because if you can't see his model, he hits on 6s. So Eldrad is very good because you don't have to take a bodyguard for him to stay alive. So take one of those. Lone Op 12, obviously. If it's Lone Op, you can't shoot at him unless you're within 12. Very good. Lone Op 18 is less good unless it's a unit dedicated to be within a firing lane. Reactive move / get it back in the bus. So Mortarion is one of the best examples because Mortarion is in an army that doesn't usually have reactive move. There's no other way to get reactive moves in Death Guard. So one of the best ways to use Mortarion is to have Plague Marines with a Rhino. You hide the Rhino behind cover, you have Plague Marines get out of it, and then you have Mortarion behind cover and you string the Plague Marines back within 6 inches of them. So if you move within 9 inches of the Plague Marines, the Plague Marines can move 5 inches back into the Rhino. So you can't shoot the stupid Plague Marines, and the Plague Marines do a gazillion damage. So you get out of the Rhino, shoot your unit to death, make sure they're within 5 inches of the Rhino. You move within 9 inches to deal with the Plague Marines. They move back in the Rhino. Next turn they get out and do the same thing again. Annoying. Move, shoot, move. So these guys are Seraphim. They can deep strike within 9 inches of your unit, and then when they shoot at that unit, they can move 6 inches closer and get within 3 of you, and then they can steal your objective. So even though you're standing objective and you say, "Hi, you can't deep strike within 9 to take my objective away," they can move within 3 of you and steal your objective. Also annoying. Okay, some list building resources that you don't need me to look at your list. Listhammer.info. This is a constantly updated site that steals all the info from BCP. Basically, they have an account with BCP, and then they take all the tournament winning lists that are 4-1 or better, and then they basically upload them there, and you can see what within your faction is currently winning tournaments, and you can see what kind of tournaments they're winning, like teams tournaments or solo tournaments, like how big the tournaments are winning, so you can take from the best, the largest tournaments. You know, take from Vegas Open or take from London Open. Don't take from like the weird 20-man tournaments where you can run some meme lists. Or if you want to run some meme lists, take from those those tournaments. It's fun. Sometimes they can have some really creative stuff. But don't copy those lists because those people know what sort of tech pieces they're using and how they're using it. Sometimes you'll see like this solo weird, like for example, if I don't tell you how to use this guy, you don't know what this guy is doing. Like, how are you gonna figure this math out like just on your own? Unless you really know what you're doing. So don't just copy their list. You have to figure it out on your own. You have to work it out on your own, and you have to figure out your positioning. Don't just copy it. Hutber is a guy in the community who takes all the stats and gathers them in the meta, and he has ratings for each individual unit as to how they're doing, and they have a meta rating for how many lists are taking each individual unit, and you can work out what people are doing with their army. Again, don't copy them. Don't just say, oh, everybody's taking intercessors, therefore I should take it. Okay, you should probably take intercessors. But everybody's taking warp talons, therefore I should take warp talons. Why are they taking warp talons? Figure out why they're taking warp talons. Unit crunch is my favorite simming tool. You can enter in all their profiles and then figure out how much damage they're supposed to be doing. They generate really pretty graphs. So you think, oh, Hellblasters are great. Are they really? Are they great into tanks? Are they great into Terminators? Actually, when you look at the breakpoints, and they're not actually that great into Terminators. They're 2 damage units, not great into 3 wound guys, and then some things can be very unintuitive. So figure it out. So once again, lists are useless without knowing how those pieces work. Figure that out first. Troubleshooting principles. Go through the troubleshooting checklist I'm going to post on the next page. Play the same list a bunch of times before you change the list. Stop buying units. Stop buying new lists. Stop buying new armies. Play the list. A lot of times, it's you, not the unit. If it doesn't work multiple times, then check the unit, then change the list. And also, put the list on the table with what models you have, blah, 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 blah. Not what is optimal. You don't need to spend $115 to buy the combi lieutenant, the lieutenant with combi weapon. 2 5-man intercessor squads will take you to 4-1. It will at least take you to 3-2. The reason why you need the combi lieutenant is it is optimal, but a lot of it is still player skill, and if you rely on the units to get you to 4-1, you will be a less good player. So this is the troubleshooting principle. Did it die before it moved? That's because you deployed it poorly. Did it die after moving once? You moved it poorly. You should not move it out of cover, out of line of sight. Did it die after moving twice? You should have put it in deep strike, put it in a transport, put it on a completely different flank, or I didn't put it here. Keep it further back because it can move really fast. Why did it move? Why did you move it twice? Did it bounce off the target you attacked? You didn't select the right target. It's supposed to be an infantry killer. Why did you attack a tank? Or you have too many things that kill light infantry. You should have things that kill heavy infantry. You have too many things that kill tanks. You have more things that kill heavy infantry. A lot of new players will have things that kill too much light infantry. Like, there's not a lot of things in this game that are 1 wound. Stop taking things that kill 1 wound infantry. Did it do subpar damage? You forgot their ability, detachment rule, and army rule. A lot of things, they have sustained hits and lethal hits. You forgot to pick out the sustained hits and lethal hits. Did you forget to activate the correct stratagems? Did you forget to put them in the correct condition? Like, they reroll wounds on objectives, but you didn't attack on the objective. Or the enemy has defensives, breakpoints, or sequencing. Remember, the enemy gets a say. Don't forget that they get a say. Or did the enemy actually have good? Does this unit actually have good potential? Did you actually sim out the unit and say, is this actually a good unit? Hellblasters. Hellblasters are not actually a good unit. Stop taking Hellblasters. Or if you take Hellblasters, know what they can do. Use them in the situation that they can actually use it. Stop taking 10-man Hellblasters with apothecaries. They're not good. Okay, this is an actual work example. This is something that actually happened to me. This is a unit that is very good in Death Guard, and I took this unit, It's 3 Death Shroud, 160 points, plus a Death Shroud Lord of Contagion. He's 120 points. And I put them against 5 of these Custodian Wardens plus the Blade Champions, 380 points. This is not a good trade normally, but this is in Champions of Contagion where you can throw a lot of CP into them and just completely juice them the fuck up. And this is a standard Tarpit unit. I didn't know that at the time, the first time I did it, but they're -1 to wound if you have higher strength than they do, than their toughness, and they have a once per game 4-up Funeral Paint, which is hilarious because they're 3 wounds each, and so they can absolutely just kill your breakpoints. Um, in both scenarios, they were holding my opponent's expansion because I killed their sisters using some Chaos Spawn or something else. I forgot what it was. It was a blow-drone. It was the exact same thing. I threw my blow-drone into them. They killed it with these champions, and then I sent my spawn in to put them in contagion and call in the Death Shroud on a 6-inch charge. And this is the combo. You spend if the enemy unit is below starting strength, I can spend 2 CP for free rerolls to hit and wound, and I can spend another CP for 5-up crits. This thing's going away 11th. But this was the combo for Champions of Contagion, and for 2 games, I did this exact same thing. So in game 1, I decided to conserve CP because I only had 5, and I decided to use some of the CP on the other flank so that I can juice up some Plague Marines. And in the other game, I decided to spend all 5 CP because I knew this was happening, because in the first game, it didn't work out. So, what happened? I did not realize I have a 5-up Funeral Paint. I did not realize I had a -1 wound because I did not go and ask, because that was my first game against Custodes, and I was a new player, and I did not know how to play. So I only popped my 5-up crits. I flamered them once. I did not kill a unit, and I did not pop my grenade, so I did not reduce them below starting straight. And this is the actual models. This is the unit crunch, so the expected result is 4. Chance of 4 better is 56.6. I think I actually killed 3 in melee, and the clapback I lost 2. And I think the result was basically the chance of slaying defender is 2.5. I did not kill them. I did worse than 4 if I remember correctly. And in game 2, I did not sugarcoat it. I said, okay, this did not work out well in game 1. I'm going full in. I went to 5-4 CP Congo. I threw a grenade at it, killed one guy. I basically I lined up my deep strike so that I would be able to 6-inch charge on two of his custodian guardians. So even if I killed one guy with the grenade, I would still be able to have a 6-inch charge on 2 of those guys. This is the little technique when you're lining up deep strikes. And I did a full shooting phase on them. I shot them with all of my flamers and killed one. I didn't kill one more guy. I left one guy on 1 wound. I left 1 CP for a reroll charge. I didn't need it. And then I did my 2 CP reroll hits and wounds, 5-up crits, and I left the guy's jaw on the ground. And I killed all these guys with full fishing for crits. Anything that was not a 5-up, I fished for crits. And I spent 20 minutes on my turn on that game and just killed every single one of his guys. No kill like overkill. And this was the results. This was a doubles game, by the way. I was playing me and Sandro versus William and another guy that was Custodes and Gene Stealer Colts. And 98, we basically played a perfect game versus 42. And this was against Justin. He beat the crap out of me here. Although it was not bad a game. I actually kept him off his primary until the very end. But yeah, this is the difference between knowing how to play a unit versus not knowing how to play a unit. And if I had just said, "Oh, this unit sucks," and I just got rid of it, then I would not have gotten the second game. So this is how you build a list. You persist and you learn how to build that unit. So this is how the worksheet worked. I did deploy it properly. I put it in deep strike. I did move it properly. I didn't move it. I did move it in deep strike. None of these actually mattered. I did select the correct target, which is, even though it was higher points than me, I juiced it up, and then I put it into heavy infantry, which is what this unit is supposed to do. I did select the proper ability and detachment rule. Terminators with a leader is what Champions of Contagion is for, but I did not activate the correct stratagems, which is I need to put every CP into this unit. And I did not put in the correct conditions, which is I had to put every reroll into them. And I did not ask what their defensives and breakpoints are. So even though I said, okay, they're only 3 wound infantry, and they're only, toughness 6, and I'm strength 8, and I have a lance, and I have sustained lethal, but I didn't realize I have a 4 feeling pain and -1 to wound. So, you know, this is what I did not properly account for. And I did sim it out, but I did not sim out those two things. So these are the 3 X's that I gave myself, and then the next turn, I made these into circles. Okay, I'm gonna go eat lunch first.